All right, we're live. Welcome to my live stream. I'm planning on working on some art. I usually at the beginning of these streams would do a plug and stuff like that, but we're just going to kind of jump into it. So I'm working on some stuff off screen for a little bit after Artcasters. We had a pretty good one today. So that's like the video before this. And I have no idea if anybody's going to show up because it's like 1 a.m. So I'm going to be working for about like 45 minutes or so. I think Corey Kerr might be joining us in a few. And I did have another special guest that might be joining us as well. And I'll wait to see if we get anyone showing up to this thing initially. But I'm gonna kind of draw and just kind of work on stuff and enjoy the new background lights and the stream and kind of see how it goes. So we'll see if Corey ends up showing up. If he does, cool. If not, no worries. And we're gonna just get some art done, and hopefully I can kind of hang out with you guys a little bit while we work on some stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little update too. I got my banners in for Jacob's Apartment, my graphic novel. I'm gonna be doing. Let's see here. I'm also trying to kind of navigate a little bit of the work that it's hard for me to kind of stream while doing to kind of to see how this goes. So this will be like a test pilot function. It does look like we have a few viewers. So because we have a few viewers, I'm going to just show my new bit that I came up with when we were kind of chatting after the show, Artcasters, me and Scott and Corey. And I have a new guest to show our one viewer right now. So this guest is Friedrich Nietzsche, the famous existentialist philosopher. Will be joining us on stream, and here he is. Hello, I find this to be a very pointless, senseless existence doing this show. I don't know what accent exactly I am going to have. I will have to kind of work that out. But I'm Friedrich Nietzsche, and since we are all creating our own purpose, I think the purpose of this show has a lot of purpose. As much purpose as a porpoise. That's it. Wow. Well, Friedrich Nietzsche joined us. That was my my bit that I threw together using highly special effects. Special effects that boggle the mind for this stream. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're watching, let me know what you guys thought. To be honored with the presence of a great philosopher like Nietzsche about 3 minutes into the stream before I'd even plugged any of my books or anything like that. It's just a great honor is all I have to say. So yeah, I'm going to be working on Not Death But Love just a little bit and seeing how it goes. Like, can I kind of focus enough on these streams when I'm doing some of the kind of more boring work to kind of make content like this. This is going to be an interesting test. My hard out is at 2, so I'll probably be streaming till about 2 in the morning, and then I will have to catch some sleep. But okay, so I need to talk about Long Beach Comic Con. Philip Chandler said, I'm not sure if you want to know it's me watching or not. Of course I want to know it's you watching. Philip is awesome. Philip is a good friend of the show. He does live streams as well, and is a very talented artist. I encourage you guys to check out his YouTube. How's it going, Philip? He said, I was just about to turn off, and then I was thinking, watch Josh come on, and sure enough. I love it. Yeah, so anyhow, I got this like I have a banner that I use at shows, and it has 2 stories. But one thing I want to start doing is every release of a book that I have, eventually I think it's kind of cool if I can if I can basically make like a custom banner that kind of works for every book release. And so obviously Jacob's Apartment just came out a couple months ago, and so I needed to order a new banner that both, you know, has branding with my name all over it, but also has, you know, like the cover of Jacob's Apartment. And so I posted that to Instagram. I'm not going to pull it up on the stream right now, so if you guys are curious, you can check it out on Instagram. But I'm really excited. So basically, I have my banner, and so the only thing that has yet to arrive are my copies of Jacob's Apartment, which my publishers sent out. I ordered about 50 books, which is probably way more than I need. But that'll, you know, I'll probably bring, you know, a decent chunk of those, because all I sell at conventions are my books. Like, it's a little experiment that I wanted to try, and I might be stubborn because here's my thinking on it. Like, the reason I'm doing conventions is to promote my books. And so to me, I'd rather even take the loss. Like, I could clean up at conventions if I just made prints of, like, you know, some t-shirt designs I've made in the past, like Puppet Checkup, which is like viral, and it was kind of a big hit online and still makes, you know, residual income for me on like some of the t-shirt sites that it got popular on, or like Attack of Literacy, or the League of Cliche Evil Supervillains. Like, these things kind of went, Captain Obvious would clean up at a con. You know, these are things that still make me like passive income that I've made, and I could just do prints and I could make a decent amount of cash at the con. Definitely break table, you know, like easily, if I sold prints. But the catch is, like, I thought about this years ago, and I think it has proven true, where it's like the purpose of doing these conventions is to push the sales of my books. Like, and the problem is, if I have these like appealing pop culture related prints, even people like myself are going to be less tempted to look at the books and look at the exclusive that's only available at the con or whatever of the print. And you get a much better ROI, right? Because it's like, maybe the print costs you like $1 to do on cat print or something like that. You can sell them for like $20. So you've made like $19 just, you know, selling like a cheap print. That looks good. I don't mean to besmirch people who sell prints, but if I were there to like make just mass amounts of money, or make the best amount of money I could over the weekend, that's how I would approach a con. And I would encourage people, like, you know, especially if it's your first con, don't avoid prints, right? Because I mean, if you don't want to go broke, right, that's a good route. But the whole purpose I'm at a con is to sell my comics, and so I don't want any distractions. Like, I thought about this a couple of years back when I was thinking about like just the market data that you see when it comes to and this is just like my argument for why I'm only selling comics. And then I might have like some giveaway stickers or something, you know. But the reason I only sell my comics at the booth is because I just started thinking about, like, one of the reasons that like a restaurant with a limited menu is a pretty good business model is the idea that like the customer comes in, they don't have too much selection to choose from. And so they're really forced to kind of pay attention to whatever's there. And to me, since I'm there at a comic convention, like, I have a day job, like, I don't need to use a comic convention to make a ton of extra money. Not that I'm like rolling in cash. I'm not. I extra money, extra income definitely helps. But my purpose of going to a convention is literally to sell and promote my books. And so I don't want any distraction that's going to keep a reader away from my book. I don't want their income, like, that they might be spending towards a book going towards a poster, even though that's a bigger win for me in the short term. In the long term, it's one less reader of my book that I could get at that convention. So what I want to do is just get rid of all distractions and just focus on only selling my books. And then if I have any products at all there, they need to be related specifically to the book that I'm there to promote. So that's why the banners are specifically going to highlight each book that comes out. And right now I've got 2. So what's ideally, in the future, this is going to become more and more lucrative as I like grow in like the amount of books that I have. I've tested this out to mixed results, but I will say I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. I've done a lot of thinking about it, and I definitely feel like it's got to be it's got to be worth it. And I guess we'll kind of find out. But like so far, I haven't lost my shirt doing it. And so I'm going to continue to do that and see how it goes at Long Beach Comic Con. The interesting thing about Long Beach Comic Con, like when I did this at LA Comic Con, it was pretty good show. Like honestly, for testing this out, like I actually, made back my table and all that stuff, and had a pretty good time, honestly. And sold some books, got some press. It was a pretty successful event. TCAF was like really awesome. I did get a little bit of press from that. I had a really good experience. I met my publisher, which was really cool. But honestly, like that was probably a loss of a trip because of the fact that I like, as Philip knows, it's like my card reader stopped working. So I wasn't able to take it apparently didn't work internationally. So I wasn't able to take card transactions, which like cut into like, I mean, hell, I don't even carry cash with me, so if I'm at like a convention and somebody's like, hey, I can't take card, that's like, it's one less likely sale, right? Because by the time I've walked through the convention, I've probably run into something else that's interesting that takes card. And so that cut into potential wins. But even that, like overall, ended up being a net benefit doing the con. So it's kind of this weird mixed bag of things. But yeah, so anyhow, yeah, Philip said, I saw the photo of that banner. It looks fantastic. And then Philip said, I'm a little jealous, LOL. And then Frank Salazar is joining us and said, hi, Josh. He said, I was finishing making a thumbnail for Tarako. I'm headed to bed and saw that you're on. Stop by to say hi. Yeah, I'll be headed to bed in probably about, this is going to be a shorter one. I'm going to be done around 2. Philip said that was so awful and I felt bad. I'm glad you were still able to make some money. Yeah, so the thing wasn't about making money. That's the point. Like I guess my point is like this is one of the things that started changing my mindset on it a little bit. The reason that like a lot of places like NAM is a really good example. Like there's this giant music convention, for people who are kind of in the music industry and stuff like that, where they'll debut like brand new instruments at this event called NAM, and they'll put a ton of money and marketing and promotion into basically these debuts. And like the whole purpose in the music industry at NAM is not just to like sweep and clean up at the actual event, but it's to establish you get press out of it, you get reviews out of it, and then you get potential customers, and you get industry leaders like talking about the thing, and then you start getting word of mouth, and then you start getting that bigger marketing stuff. And so to me, that's why I'm doing a convention. And then money, like if I can manage to do it without losing my shirt, that's a successful con. Because at the end of the day, like my goal isn't just to make like short-term cash. My goal is to make long-term readers. And if I get long-term readers, then that's much better and more stable and kind of more potential. So that's my thinking on it. Now, keep in mind, this is still a theory, but it's something I think has worked, because here's the thing. At those cons, I definitely, by not having a bunch of other distractions that could otherwise like make me a lot of income at the show, I do sell more books. And that was my theory, because I remember doing cons and being like, it's weird because people just, they'll pick up the book, but they want to buy the print. Everybody loves the the Puppet Checkup print. Even people who are like into like serious indie stuff, you know, most people are familiar with Kermit the Frog. They think it's funny. And so they'll be like, man, I need that print. That like, to me, you know, I remember seeing that happen a few times where people would pick up the comic and then be like, I'll just get that later, which they probably, you know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But then like would go on to buy a print that in the short term, again, is like more lucrative for me, but they'd pass on the book, which was why I was at the convention in the first place, because I'm not trying to make a living doing cons, you know, like that's not my goal. My goal is to make readers and hopefully grow my ability to make a living doing comics, you know, and getting readers and stuff. So that's been like kind of my change in thinking on conventions. I feel like it's kind of, I'm not saying you should go to a convention and like lose your shirt. Oh, and we are being joined by Corey Kerr, who maybe he has like an opinion on it. But it's like, I feel like you're not doing a convention just to like lose your shirt. By the way, we're live, Corey. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay, cool. So don't talk about all your crazy conspiracy theories now that we're on air.
Don't take my shirt off.
Exactly.
Or if you give us enough super chats.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I am.
You know what I should do is I should have people super chat me to not take my shirt off.
That's true. That's true. You could like be like, look, guys, if I don't get a super chat in about a minute, I'm singing Private Dancer by Tina Turner. And not only that, but I am privately dancing. We had a guest before on the show. I don't know if you're familiar. He's this kind of, I don't know, this guy who just lurks on my channel named Friedrich Nietzsche. Are you? So anyhow, he joined us on the channel a little earlier, and he might return. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But if he does, feel free to ask him questions. I think he's like really into, I don't know, this existentialism thing or something.
Yeah. He's not technically an existentialist, is he?
I will say the non-response from like the 3 people watching like on the Nietzsche thing, like I don't know if people realize this, but that actually encourages me to continue. Like it's like the dad in me. You know, the dad that tells the bad joke and you see your kid roll your eyes and you're like, you don't realize you're fueling me.
You're going to force people to enjoy the thing that they hate.
Yeah.
That's true. That makes sense. That's a good plan.
But anyhow, so I was talking about like my theory on cons and like the purpose of conventions, like in broader industries outside of comics. And we've talked about this a lot, where like artists kind of sometimes make it a failure of not thinking of themselves as a business.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've actually erred a lot as cartoonists in cons, like forgetting that we're a business. Like we're not there to clean up and make a ton of money. Although if you can, that's cool. Like, you know, Jim's friend Rody Matteo, I think that guy makes like, from what I've heard, I think he makes like his year's income at San Diego Comic-Con. So,
man.
hey,
Awesome.
if you're able to clean up like that, or I think Lonnie Millsap, who was a guest, like he makes just like crazy amounts of money at a convention at San Diego again. But I think in general, I think like the idea of like going there and selling a product that you aren't even there to sell and making all that investment of time and effort and stuff like that just to sell some prints. If that's not what you're there to like move, then like it just feels like a counterintuitive business move, where it's like I feel like for me, like my purpose in going to a con is to sell books. I was kind of explaining to the audience, but it's like and I will say that while it's been less lucrative financially, I've moved more books, and then I end up getting more press about my books and more interest in my books and more readers. And like, to me, that's the goal. So I'm going to continue it and hopefully not lose my shirt doing it. But it's always hard. It's a gamble at a convention like Long Beach, where it's going to be a superhero con with a lot of cosplay and stuff. And I'm the guy who's like, here's my book about manic depression. Have I told you about my other book that talks about a young man losing his father to cancer, and the whether the pursuit of love is worthwhile? Like is the pursuit of a dream with the absence of love worthwhile? And it's like the kind of book that, wait a minute, this book sounds very interesting to me. Does it talk about the void?
So I
Corey, do
want to
you know
know.
if it talks about the void?
I want to know if all these new special effects, if you're able to still work while you're doing the special effect.
This special effect is very easy to work while doing. I just have to remember to. I don't know what special effect you're talking about. Actually, there is no special effect. If my eyes could move, they would move back and forth with a question. But
If your
I
eyes
have
could-
a dead existential stare because of my awareness of the purposelessness of this entire endeavor. Okay, so anyhow, I don't know what's going on with this Friedrich guy who just keeps popping on.
He's a real positive influence, though.
I don't know, man. He's kind of a drag.
Josh,
like I kind of miss
working...
Greenberg. I didn't think I would say this, but I'm starting to miss Greenberg. You know, I'm not even a Greenberg fan. You know, but
I can't think of something that I have done in my life that is more boring than what I'm doing right now. It's like,
yeah, I'm doing the kind of boring stuff too that I usually do off stream right now. So I get it.
Yeah, it's. Frank says, I don't know what I missed. Yeah, you missed me complaining about how boring this client job I have right now is. But it is not fun. I'm going to do that.
Oh my gosh, Frank, you're continuing this maple syrup nonsense? You must cut it out. No, I'm just kidding, Frank. I'm not mad. I think it's actually a funny meme. You should keep it going. I think this needs to carry over to Jeff's stream too. So I'm just saying, if this happens to, the maple syrup comments happen to follow everywhere we go. Is this all like, see, Frank is really good at marketing. I feel like Frank might be doing a long con here, and not like a convention, but like a long con to try to get everybody to talk about Canada so he can launch his Canadian superhero character. Am I reading that wrong, Frank? I feel like there's more to this maple syrup conversation than you're letting on to. So what's the boring stuff you're working on, Corey?
I have been hired to animate
the transitions.
One very specific type of transition in a PowerPoint presentation for investors.
Yep.
And it's not even like sometimes, you know how you can find like fun stuff and things. You're like, you know, you can say, oh yeah, I love, you know, this is boring, but I got to do these cool, fun little processes or whatever. That was last night. I figured that out in the first 2 hours of this, and now I'm like 12 hours into it. So like 10 hours, it's been 10 hours of not fun. Like the figuring it out was fun.
Yeah.
And now it's just not. So that's where I'm at. A terrible attitude for money that I needed and got and wasn't looking for. And I should have a better attitude, but it's so boring.
All right, guys, I'm calling it. This is Maplegate now at this point. There is so much maple syrup conspiracies going on in the chats. So Philip said, Frank and I are becoming maple buddies. And Frank said, it's not a joke. We genuinely love maple syrup. Look, I am with you, man. Like there is nothing that beats like an actual glass bottled maple syrup that's finely imported, especially Canadian. I will say, like, I know it's cliche. It's like saying, like, you know, Canadians are really polite. But Canadian maple syrup is no joke. Like that stuff, if you can get some from, you know, there's good maple syrup made in Colorado too. Basically anywhere that has good paper mills. Just saying, you know. You know what just dawned on me? That's a totally off topic thing, but not.
What's that?
So I've called Cubicore. It used to be, I can't remember if they've changed to like Lebon font or if they used to be Lebon font, but they're like the biggest printer of like, you know, comic books, and they're in Canada. And it just dawned on me, is it actually Quebec Core?
I don't. You're just saying a bunch of words that I've heard you say before, but I literally have no idea what you're talking about. So they print comics or something?
Yeah, but I always thought it was Quebecor. But now that I think about it, I think they're in Quebec. So it's like, wouldn't it be Quebec Core?
Could be. Who knows?
And Philip said Quebec makes the best, though. That's what I'm saying. You look for the paper mills, follow the paper, follow. This is part of Maplegate. Okay, you got to follow the paper, and where the paper is, the maple syrup will follow. And for that, I think there shall be super chats, just as a thank you for that tip. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I it's tough with that like corporate work that pays real good but is just like incredibly tedious.
Well, the other thing is they provided me with the stock photography that they found that they want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not bad, but I hate stock photography so much.
Yeah.
Like I just like there's something at my core that it just grates on me that I'm not creating my own assets.
Yeah, I think because I'm like in the art director role, for my day job, I'm like, well, if it's more efficient and it gets the same result and, it's cost and time saving, then, I'm all about stock. But for my own stuff, it's funny with
for it. But even when I was an art director, I was lucky enough to be in a position where I just said, we don't use stock.
Yeah. Well, with our output, we couldn't not with our competitors who are using stock. But we use it well and we use it in limited fashion. But the thing that I was going to say is for my own work, I'm not going to touch. Like on my own personal work, I never use clip art. Like I don't even use, those plug-in buys. Like like people will use like, to me, it's like I like making everything myself.
Yeah.
That's just my own like personal thing. And maybe it's a hang up, it's probably a hang up that's actually maybe cost me money, but I just feel like if you're branding yourself as like an illustrator and branding yourself by your name, what you make should reflect your name,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent 2 days hand drawing the credits to my animated short.
Mm-hmm.
Like
those look so cool though.
I'm glad
I noticed the wobble.
Yeah.
The nice type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The type wobble was a cheat. So I'm glad it looks hand drawn because that
was that the same cheat that you developed for the kind of look of the stop motion kind of thing?
No, it's a turbulent displace map that shakes the lines a little bit. I stole
that sounds like something from Star Trek, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right behind the flux capacitor and the dilithium crystals. So as long as you have your turbulent displace map in the right place.
Maplegate.
Yeah. See, Philip agrees. He's not going to use the free craft that they try to give him.
I agree with Philip too. I think like if you're in a corporate environment, then it makes sense to be corporate. But if you're, not corporate, then why the hell would you want to be corporate? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And like again, like with especially like comics, like why mess with corporate? Like there's no purpose. Make it what you want it to be. So anyhow, what do you think about cons? Like I feel like there are people who get bummed at a convention because they go to a convention with like 50 prints and one like 24-page comic. And they're like, only 2 people bought my comic. And it's like, well, I mean, you're like a restaurant that wants to sell steak, but you have like all these cheap hamburgers and just crazy things that have a better return. And then you're like, oh, only 2 people bought the filet mignon or whatever. It's like, no, just be the fine restaurant where you're like, we have 2 items on the menu. And then guess what? You're going to sell more than like 2 copies of that, even if you get like lower traffic in return. You're achieving the marketing goal. I don't know. I feel like, you know what it is? I just realized it's not that they're not thinking like a business. They're thinking like a salesperson instead of a marketing person.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart if you're doing a comic convention to be both a sales team for yourself as well as a marketing department, and think, what is your goal? Like, what's your objective, like, in being there? Which I guess ties into my video about the 2 questions that I did earlier today.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of depends. Because I mean, I think some I mean, when I went, I've done one con, so what do I know? You know. But when I went, I brought stickers, and I brought my book, and I brought prints and postcards, and it was fine. But I mean, I'm not in the same boat where I've got 3 books that I'm promoting or whatever.
Yeah, and I like, this advice would be different if it's somebody like trying to move, like if you're trying to kind of Jerifus is joining again from Twitch. Thanks, man. I'm glad to have somebody watching on Twitch. It's kind of nice. Yeah, like I don't think I'd make that advice if somebody's trying to move like a 20-page comic and you're trying to make your table. You're gonna have a really rough time. If you're selling something that's maybe like $5 that cost, like, especially because a lot of people doing like shorter books, like they're investing maybe like $1 under what they're gonna make. And so it's like, if you're making like $1 an issue, let's say your table costs like $300, you're gonna have to sell 300 issues. That's insane. Right. That would be hard to do. Whereas if you have a graphic novel, and it's like, maybe it's like costing you 10 or something to do or get from your publisher or whatever, and then you're able to sell it for $20. Well, I mean, you sell 10 books and you're 100 in. You sell like 20 books, and now you're getting closer to table. You sell 30 books, you've made table, right? You sell 40 books, now you're making a profit. It's not a ton, but it's just like, it's not as hard to move like 40 books as it is to move like 300. Like, it's just a matter of numbers. And so I would definitely say, if you don't have a trade, like, it would be a hard thing to do. That's one of the reasons I never really tried this before. But once you have like a trade, like, again, like, if I have like, I'm not crapping on people who like, move a lot of stuff, but it's like, I think about my objective before I go there. And it's like, I don't really need to move t-shirts. If I were to sell t-shirts, everything I would sell would be related to the property I'm there to push, now at this point in my art life. But this might also be a stubborn thing. Cause like, one could also make the argument like, well, why limit yourself and limit what you could make,
I think, honestly, I think it is a little bit of a stubborn thing, because I think you're looking at your books too much. And personally, I think you should be promoting yourself as an artist.
But like, I don't like I guess the catch is, I move more books when I do this, so
sure,
than I would otherwise. So like,
right. I'm just saying, like, let's say that somebody's there and they've got $5 and they like you and they'd like to follow along, like a $5 purchase from that person might get you a fan over the long term, more so than like, well, I can't afford it right now, and then they move on and whatever. And I agree with what you're saying on the limited selection and stuff, but
it's also one of those things where I've heard complaints about this from people who do, and I'm not, again, like, I don't even know where I stand on it, because again, I've only tried this like twice, like, so I want to compare this too, just to give people a reality check on it. Like, if you try this, you will be losing some potential revenue. Like, a good example, every convention I used to do, I would have like skateboard decks that were like 80 to $100, right?
Yeah.
And every convention I would sell like 2 or 3 of those, custom skateboard decks, because I've done skateboard art. And these aren't like ones that I painted on or anything. They're just, skateboard companies that I did deals with, where like, they'd give me like a bunch of free decks and I'd give them free art,
Mm-hmm.
And I would easily make, table just from the skateboard decks,
Yeah.
so not having that $80 item, really is like, then like, even if somebody buys my book for like 20 or whatever, I'm making $10. Whereas otherwise I'd be making like $80 with no revenue down.
Right. So, but think
So
about the skateboard deck versus
yeah.
like a print or something. Because most people don't know what to do with prints. They buy them and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. Some people hang them up, some people don't. Right. But with a deck, that is a physical item that's going to stick around for a while. That's got your name on it. I just feel like the shelf life of a deck is something that might be worth.
Yeah, and I think that like in the case of the skateboard decks that I had that were specifically branded around Numb, that made sense. But I think the other ones, what you end up with, okay, here's the conundrum, right? I have heard like so many people. This is a complaint I hear a lot from people who do like fan art, right? Where they get frustrated because like I don't know. Let's say they make like trying to think, what's a property like, this is a property I don't know anyone in our circle that's doing it, so hopefully they don't take this personally. Let's say like there's just this crazy following of like the Lone Ranger, right? And you do like Lone Ranger prints and Lone Ranger art, and then you do a con and like all people buy is like your Lone Ranger stuff. And you're thinking like, okay, I'm building these long-term fans that'll eventually buy my book. But like every convention you do, people are like, dude, when's the next Lone Ranger print?
Yeah.
And when they're buying the comic, like sometimes maybe they're not even buying it to read it. They're just buying it as like a, hey, I'm going to throw this to you because I kind of like, I appreciate your Lone Ranger prints. You know what I mean? So, I've heard multiple fan art people complain about that, where they're like, dude, all people want to buy at the cons is like my fan art, and I'll have like 50 comics next to them that are custom made indie comics, and all people want is the fan art. And all I'm saying is like, you might be surprised, like if you get rid of the fan art and you just have the comics, like how many sales are you missing because you have all this fan art? And again, like if I'll use myself as an example. I was a huge nerd for like Doctor Who, right? So if I like go by somebody's booth and they have their own individual creation, but they also have like a cool thing with like, Doctor Who related stuff, I'm probably just my instinct, or like I love the Sandman, right? If they have like a Sandman print, I am totally going to look past, and I'm a guy who likes creators, but I will totally look past that person's personal work and go straight to the thing I'm already attached to, right? And then I'll be like, that's cool. I love the Sandman. And all that's doing is rebranding and reinforcing my love of a property that creator has nothing to do with.
Yeah, but I don't know why you're bringing up fan art, because I don't disagree with you there.
So my point of bringing up fan art is like a lot of the stuff that would sell at a con that I've done like is not fan art, but it's very pop culture related stuff, and it's not really the kind of work that I want. That it's not the work that I'm doing in my comics.
Yeah.
And then I have some stuff that might tie in tandem with the comics, but I feel like there's an argument that could be made either way, where you can make a long-term fan who's just going to buy everything you do, right?
Yep.
But there's also the other argument that you might make a long-term fan who's buying everything you don't want to do that you do. Whereas like, if to me, my point is, if I'm going to Nom, right, to sell music instruments, right? And I could make a bunch of money selling water because it's a big show. I can make some money short-term selling water, and maybe somebody will buy that water and be like, huh, kind of cool instrument too.
That's a hard analogy for me, because that's a B2B show.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at, is like, I think that people need to think of comic conventions on trade show terms a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
B2B trade shows, though?
It's not a bad comparison, because you're also at a convention to meet, network. You're there to meet librarians. You're there to meet press, right? Like there's a whole purpose to conventions that goes beyond just like the short-term sale.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the same as B2B, but my point is, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to be the food truck that's known for being like the best for a specific food? Or do you want to be the short order chef that's offering everything? You know, that's my point.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's bad. I just think if you do have ancillary other stuff, it should all be related to the comic. Like, you know, if you want higher ticket items, sell original pages from the comic, you know, or sell prints of the pages or something from the comic. Like, if you have prints that you're selling, maybe sell prints of the characters from the comic that are like custom prints for the show or whatever. But like, yeah, I guess that's my thinking on it. But again, I'm not trying to like proselytize and get converts. I'm just saying like it has worked in the sense of like my theory on like that moving more comics has definitely held true, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this is me having 2 conventions worth of experience, so who knows. But I do know I also have missed out on potential revenue, you know. So
yeah, and possibly on fans that would otherwise buy your book later after they followed you on YouTube and bought a couple things, and
yeah, but why not just have them buy the book then?
Because they might not do it then. Because you might not hit them at a point where they're going to do that. Like, I mean, you understand the sales funnel. I mean, you know what I mean. And so you might hit them at
yeah,
very wide part of the sales funnel, and
that's true.
You could draw them further down, given the amount of time. But if you're only offering the narrow part of the sales funnel, I think you miss some of the draw of that. And I agree that things should be on topic.
Yeah, I agree with you on the sales funnel thing too. I guess for myself, my thinking on that is I'd rather funnel up, like meaning since I'm at a comic book convention, right?
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to sell my comic book. And then if that funnels up to like people finding out about my illustration work and buying t-shirts and buying stuff like that, cool. But I'd rather get it that way than the other, because I think the other is just less common. Because I think people default to the thing they like and they don't think much about it otherwise. I don't know if that makes sense. And I have definitely had those moments where I go to a con and I get overwhelmed by an overt amount of presentation, and then I don't end up buying the comic. But I've also seen Chris Cawagua, who's an expert at cons, and he'll have like a million prints. Some are pop culture related. Everything's licensed, by the way, which is the great thing about Chris's stuff too. So it'll be like stuff he did for Lucasfilm, stuff he did for all these people. And I have seen somebody who's interested in a print, and then that leads to him talking about his comic, and he's moved the comic, you know?
Yeah.
I have seen that. And he's an expert at it. So I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm saying, at least for myself, I have seen it lead to more sales of my books, you know? It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the answer is, you know?
Well, I think you might be discounting kind of for lack of a better term, the cult of personality. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there is more value in somebody becoming a fan of Joshua Kemble, the artist.
Yeah.
Financial value over time than there is in being sold on one of your books.
True, but like, okay, this was another thing I was thinking about, right? All the guys that I admire in comics kind of do what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And all of them are known for a brand. So like a good example is like Shannon Wheeler is like married to Too Much Coffee Man. He does like New Yorker stuff now. But like everything he would present at conventions for years was just Too Much Coffee Man. Yeah. If there was a t-shirt, it was Too Much Coffee Man. There's Bob the Angry Flower. That guy's notorious at conventions. What is he known for? Bob the Angry Flower, to the point where he wears like a freaking flower on his head, you know, at shows. And he's become a staple at conventions, especially indie conventions. There are guys that are like known for properties. And why? Because when they go to conventions, they're selling that property, and
Right,
it becomes
but
a
you don't.
property. It becomes a brand.
But that's not. But that's not the same thing as what you're doing. You have three drastically different.
Too.
Well, but you're going to have three,
Mm-hmm.
and they are similar in that you are the artist, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not similar in topic or character, or
They are really similar in topic and character.
there isn't carryover characters. There's not Bob the Angry Flower in every single one of them.
No, but like a good example would
There's
be
a vibe and a mood that I think
yeah.
fits who you are,
Yeah.
right? But there's not an easily marketable gimmick like Angry Coffee Guy. You know what I mean? Like you don't.
Yeah,
You're
too
not,
much coffee, man. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not doing Dogman books, right?
But
where you've
here's the
got
thing, it doesn't
15
have to
books in a
be.
series.
Yeah, that's my point though. It doesn't have to be a gimmick. I think like if I think like Acme Novelty Library by Chris Ware, that's a good example. If I think like Raw by Art Spiegel, like if I think of like any of the kind of like Love and Rockets, like any iconic thing, Blankets by Craig Thompson. It's like, again, like I don't know. I kind of think these books become kind of iconic because of the fact that like the book is the thing. And I think people lose sight of that. Like they'll kind of take the short-term profit over the marketing of the book, targeting the marketing and the effort on the sales push to the book. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong because there is the funnel and there's building long-term fans and stuff like that. But the best thing that I think we're aiming for, at least as cartoonists, is readers. I don't just want somebody who's into my personality. I want readers. I want people who are into my writing.
Oh, absolutely.
Books. Yeah.
But you're going to buy every Chris Ware book that comes out, right?
Yeah. But that's because I was blown away by reading his work.
Sure. Absolutely.
And but could I have possibly been somebody who read now I'm getting what you're saying. So maybe I buy an issue of the New Yorker and I see the cover by Chris Ware and I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. And then I get into Chris Ware and it funnels me into
blown away by his books.
Yeah.
Because what I'm saying is that you are the most important factor of what you're doing. And I think you might be skipping over that and focusing on your books. And I think your books are important. I'm not divesting you from your books. I think you and your books come together. I think you might just maybe be missing out on some of the people that would be down with your books.
Yeah, I just thought I'd kind of point out, like when we're talking about the books, we're talking about Jacob's Apartment, and then we're also talking about Two Stories. Those are my two books that just magically appeared in the air. If you wonder how these special effects happen, I'm not revealing my secrets because a magician never does. But I just want to make that happen just one more time. Pow! Look at that.
It's very
Hold on, let me just pull it back. Oh wait. That was an OBS fail. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you, OBS, for screwing up on that because one of my keys was stuck from a shortcut I was using on Photoshop. No, I agree with you. I think I agree. I guess my point is I've had art that's gone like insanely viral online.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And yet it hasn't translated to that interest in my comics. And yet like you can find like 3 or 4 of my images like on like almost every meme website around. So
I mean,
it's like,
yes, you were a king at the time when t-shirts were on fire on the internet. I mean,
and I can still exploit those, right? Because people are familiar with it. It's like weird, but it's like I've got 3 or 4 images that I've hit that like I could show almost anyone and they'd be like, "Oh, I know that,"
Yeah, I've seen that before. And I do think if you were to bring t-shirts to your booth, that would be a distraction.
But even prints of those t-shirts would be a distraction. That's my point. But that would make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And it might make fans that come in the funnel, but it's like I feel like what I'd rather do is get rid of the distraction and have a targeted marketing campaign because I have limited resources. I have limited energy and limited ability to pitch like everything. And I'd rather gear it towards the thing that I want. I want to keep it simple. But that might also just be the weird thing with me where I don't like, when I play guitar, I don't like having a million pedals. I like having 2 pedals or 1 pedal that's distortion and then 1 that's clean. That's all I like. You know, I like the limited thing.
Yeah.
But you know, I could also be missing out on the potential of, like, you know, when you're at a convention, you're getting traffic based on the traffic. As like this escalatory thing. So if you have a bunch of people stopping by to buy, say, like Puppet Checkup or something at a con, then you're now at a booth that has people. Mm-hmm. And what does that do? That draws everybody walking by that booth to be more people there, because people are drawn to the thing other people are looking at. And you'll see this in droves at a convention where, like, 1 person stops by a booth and then suddenly 2 people stop by, and then people are like, where is that the place all the cool kids are at? You know, like, it's like this weird herd mentality we all have. Yeah. And so, because we want to be where the cool thing is. So I could be missing out on that. Again, this will be like my 3rd con trying it. But I kind of think with the banners, with the targeted marketing, and really making it about books, I think I'm going to have a better shot at getting known for somebody who makes books.
Yeah, and I'm not pushing you towards prints or fan art or anything like that. I just think...
Yeah. I don't know, man. You keep trying to get me to buy Purple Rain, and I'm like, look, Corey, I'm already a fan. Okay, you don't need to push me towards prints. I'm going to make that Prince joke forever. Frank, I think, might have been the first to drop that on the stream. Sorry for the bad joke. I get what you're saying, though. I agree. Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing, but I will say this. If you're one of those people with like a million things at a convention and you're frustrated that you're not moving your comics, maybe just hypothetically remove some of those things and make the comics a little more in the forefront and see what that does. I have a feeling you'll probably sell more comics. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't disagree with that.
That being said, I don't know. I might at some point, I think I do need to get better at preparing, because I do think I have an exception to my own little rule here. Because I'm not like a religious person about this, you know. I think if you did exclusive prints of characters from your comics, I think if you made more products, but they're all related to the specific comics that you're selling, I think that's a good way to kind of bridge the gap that I think Corey was kind of pointing out, you know?
I've got to answer a question. Philip is asking, does Corey's tablet have touch? And there are tablets that Wacom makes that have touch, and this is not one of them. What I was actually doing is I'm flipping between 2 things, and I was just putting my finger where I needed to put this thing, because it's the easiest way of doing it. It was easier even than, so I was just putting a finger there so that I could go. But yeah, there are touch things, but I don't have them.
I have to say that I find I turn the touch setting off on. I have like just an old school tablet. It's not even a screen tablet because I don't like screen tablets. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a Wacom. I'm sure it'll grow on me at some point, but and I just turn the touch sensitivity off because it's irritating. It's just like when, you know, then you have to wear that stupid finger glove thing, and I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
I would do it because that's one of the things I love about drawing on an iPad.
Yeah.
But the main reason why I don't is that Wacom sponsored me with this one when I was going to buy the big one. This is a 24-inch. Mm-hmm. There is a 32-inch, and I want it so bad. I almost bought it, and I was talking to Wacom, and they were like, we don't have those for sponsorships right now, so this is what we've got available. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. So I can't complain because I am sponsored with this one, and that's nice. But I almost had one that was like 10 inches more. And you'd be able to like draw with your arm. It'd be like drawing on a Josh size paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my favorite thing.
Well, you like drawing on like a larger than Josh size paper with like a giant charcoal stick. Like you like working big.
I do. I like working really big. And so, yeah, one of these days I'll get one of those 32s. And it's going to be awesome.
By the time you do, there's going to be like a 50,000 foot.
Yeah. They actually contacted me again and after this deal. And they're like, hey, let's do something. I should reach out to them now that that's what I should do is I should reach out to those guys again.
Mm-hmm. Should be like, here's the deal. You're going to sponsor my friend Josh's stream. And he's going to provide you with nothing but Friedrich Nietzsche endorsements. And they're going to be so epic that, see, again, I'm off my game. I'm showing my special cover for Scott Strickland's Young and the Dead, which you guys should support on youngandthedead.com. All right. I meant to bring this guy back.
Oh, Philip, how is the XP pen? I've heard good things about it because the price is so low, but it's still pretty decent. Do you like your XP pen? I'm curious.
I like everything by Wacom. I just wanted to mention that in the void of existence, that
they're a great company and they make really high quality products. I love.
Is a great company, and I will say that only one of us is endorsed by Wacom, and I am not one of those. So there you go. Goodbye. Wow. Okay, that was crazy. It sounds like Friedrich really wants to promote Wacom. It's an interesting, crazy thing there.
Reach out to him then.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he's long past. I don't know how exactly I'm channeling
all these dead.
It might be the fact that I'm working on a comic that's about like it has like spiritualists and seances and stuff in it. Maybe some darkness is happening. Maybe some people are just rising from the grave.
Oh, man.
I don't know. You guys tell me if you're watching this after the fact. What do you think is causing these strange appearances of long dead people? I think we lost Corey.
No, I'm still here. I'm just getting up and walking around for a minute.
I think that's a good call. I don't want to push it too far. I'm going to go for another 20 minutes. Does that sound good? I'm going to go about another 20 minutes, but I do need a little break. So
one of the downsides of being on the amount of antibiotics and drugs and whatever that I've been on in the last few months is my digestive system is destroyed.
So Jim Lujan was not wrong. You've been on a lot of drugs when you made that.
A lot of drugs. None of them of the variety that he was suggesting, though.
Well, what were they calling you? Corey Kush?
Kush? Is it Kush? Is that the term? I'm vaguely aware of that just because
it's a drug term. Yes.
Right. The only comic shop that was in my area was like 30 miles down the road, and it was a head shop.
That's
this
right.
Is in the 90s, right? When marijuana
This is
was
back
illegal.
when you guys I've made Wizard Van jokes on here, and I don't think people realize there was an era where the Wizard Van was a thing that was very connected with comic book culture and head shops.
Yep.
This is back before cool kids did role-playing games. Back when role-playing games were on like PBS documentaries during the Satanic Panic era.
Oh, okay. So Philip says about the XP pen. So far, I can't complain. I've used the Wacom display to compare to it. I have a 20-inch, and it's done the job. They're pretty solid build, though. It doesn't feel cheap, which I like. That's good. The only thing is the pen can sometimes leave shoestring lines. I don't know what a shoestring line is. But, yeah, I've heard really good things about Wacom. Gaminelli, my former TA, she has an XP pen. She loves it.
Didn't she do a little bit for that animation?
Yeah. I sketched
what's
out
that animation again, Corey?
Shades. And if you want to see Gaminelli's scene, it's the I sketched it and animated it, and she painted it. It's the Dr. Seuss scene. One of my favorite scenes in that animation. But yeah,
It is really good. Okay, so I'm gonna disappear for like 2 seconds, and then I think I've got another. I think I can get away with like another 20 minutes after that to stream if you're still down, Corey. If you need to step out for a second or have water or whatever, this would be a good time to do it. I'm gonna play the trailer for Jacob's apartment, and then we'll be right back after these messages, guys. From our sponsor, which is me. All right, here you go. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around breathing I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. That was exciting, you guys. I know that's a new one that you've never seen if you've watched these live streams before. But I will say, if at all, like these little trailers have impressed you guys, you need to watch Shades, because that's like, I'm just saying, the animation that I did on that is like a joke compared to what Corey's doing. It's really incredible. He does like a lot of live action and animation blended together in like 50 different styles, which, you know, anybody who's familiar with my stuff knows I'm a big fan of artists switching styles. I feel like we sometimes pigeonhole ourselves to like a specific style. But anyhow, Corey, I kind of think your take on the Khan thing is interesting. I think what I need to do is just bite the bullet and make some like, well, at some point, maybe when I'm done with this book, make some like more exclusives that tie into the books that are prints, you know, that are like the characters from the books, or like maybe like little toys, things that all tie into the books. I think would be good.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
But my point is just like, I think that's the way, you know, these things, I don't know. I think like if you're building just fans, I guess a fan is a fan. I don't know, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just think, you know, if you're like, and maybe this is an artist thing, so maybe I'm wrong, but I will buy certain books just based on who's on the book, and I'll follow the artist to the next book that they're on.
No, I mean, that's totally true. Like, you know, there's certain cartoonists that if they're on a project, I'm going to back it, you know, I'll be interested.
Yeah. I mean, I bought books that I have no interest in because the creator that's on it, I'm like, they've done excellent work in the past, and they've never disappointed. And so, you know, so I just think there's some value to that.
Well, we'll see. I mean, this is going to be an interesting convention to put it to the test, you know. It'll be interesting. It'll just be interesting. The one thing I will say too is by only having your books, man, you really refine your pitch. Which is good too. Although I don't know if you guys have noticed, I'm not too great at refining my pitch. It still kind of wobbles around. I feel like I still haven't perfected that process of the pitch. This is a weakness of my personality, Corey. I have stories I've told a million times to people, right? And I've never been the guy who can like memorize the beats of a story that I tell people. I don't know if that makes sense. Like there's kind of like a comedian's mentality to telling a story where they'll kind of like, they'll hit the same beats, like the same beginning, middle, and end, you know? And it's kind of like memorized, but it's not, you know, artificial. It's sincere, you know? I'm really bad at that. Anyhow, welcome to the stream about things I'm really bad at. What are you really bad at, Corey? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, dang. I said reaching things in high places.
Oh, I was going to say like unmuting your mic.
Unmuting my mic in there at the right time. I am awful. Like, I think I have a mental block when it comes to dates. I cannot say the 12 months of the year in order and get all 12, and I never miss the same one. Like it's like a thing. I think it's a traumatic like PTSD response to stuff. But yeah,
it's possible. Like my mom has a thing where she can't, like she knows the difference between right and left, right? It's hilarious. She's a pretty brilliant lady too, you know, like taught English for like 40 years and stuff.
Yeah.
But she'll literally say left when she means right, which by the way, when you're a young teenager and you're learning how to drive, that's really problematic. Where it's like, make a right, I mean left here, and you're like, what? Like,
yeah.
And then if you're in California where people are saying right over here, so it's like make a left right here. You're like left right, what? Ah. But it's funny. And I don't know if that's like a trauma thing. I think it's just like a weird, you know, it's like a block.
Yeah. Mine is my two brothers died in second grade, and I think it might be related.
Like the accident? Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I think I might, because I don't remember anything from the second grade in school. And I can point out like a lot of things from school, but nothing from the second grade.
Yeah, understandably too, because that was like a really heavy occurrence, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of feel like at some point, do you ever think that might be something you'd address with like a book? Or is it just like that's a well not worth?
I've written some poetry about it. But I don't know. I don't think it's a well not worth mining, but it's just I don't have anything to work through.
Yeah.
With it, and I don't know. I need to have a pretty decent reason.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't want to be exploitative with it, you know, like it would have to have some kind of artistic.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I would need to have a pretty solid reason to do it. And I'm not I'm perfectly happy talking about it all the time.
Oh yeah, you don't.
Which I do, you know.
I still to this day. I mean, we've talked about this on stream before too. So if anyone's watching this and they're like, "Wow, Josh's response is really insensitive," it's like, no. We've like Corey and I have talked about this multiple times.
Yeah, this isn't.
I still to this day remember the stream where you were talking about the advice your dad had given, and I was like, that is one of the most just profoundly thoughtful ways of approaching what's a very difficult thing with a kid. I just like, if anything remotely happened with my son in a similar fashion, I would try to remember that advice your dad gave, because I was just like,
I can't remember what you're talking about.
Where he was basically saying, like, almost like, get ahead of it and just be like, this happened, I've dealt with it, like, I've, you know.
You're talking about what he said at the funeral. He told everybody at the funeral, like, I'm going to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
So you guys, that's on you to be uncomfortable, but you got to be okay with me talking to you about this, because I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you were talking, maybe it wasn't that he had given advice, but it's like you had taken that as like a kind of roadmap to like how you approach the issue. And I think that's very healthy. And I also think, you know, I don't know, I just, you know, I've talked about this on stream, but it's like, you know, and this is going to happen to all of us. You know, it's really tragic to me that, I mean, that's a rough thing to go through at a young age, but it's like, at some point we're all going to lose somebody that's close to us, you know, and if you haven't yet, that's awesome. Good job. Congrats to you, you know, out there listening. But I just recently lost a friend, you know, who just, you know, a friend from college who was a creative and making art and stuff, and they just didn't wake up, you know, and like no underlying health conditions. I'm guessing they'll find that there were some, but nothing. They just went to bed, and 39 years old, and just didn't wake up. And it's like, so what's interesting is like the weird human tendency, which we all have, like I have it too, where like you'll talk about something like that, or like losing your brother as a kid at an age where you shouldn't have to really process that kind of a heavy thing.
Right.
And like you'll mention that, and people try to make light of it or be like, oh, this is like a great, like, well, I mean, if you think about it, you know, like the circle of life kind of thing. And it's like, no, I mean, there are some things in life that like are not gonna look good, and there is no like way of making it good. There's just kind of dealing with a shitty thing, you know, and like, and just accepting like, hey, you know what, like, guess what? Sometimes like bad things happen to good people, you know, kind of thing. Like, and there's no like magic balance to it. It's just like a shitty thing, you know. I think people need to, I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing, but it's like, I think definitely we need to get a little more comfortable with just like discomfort, you know, and being able to be like okay with somebody grieving without saying like, well, on the bright side, you know. It's like, I have a joke about that, like the eternal optimist that, you know, would see like the two towers fall or something, and like the second it happens, be like, well, on the bright side, there's more real estate. You know, it's like there's some things that there is no bright side, you know. I don't know. Anyhow. Yeah. That was me getting really dark, and I think we went from 3 viewers to 1. Hold on a second. There's a guy that I know that gets into this stuff. Yes, this happens when you talk about the darkness of the existential void. You sometimes reach into the void and feel the absence of viewers. Not many people have read my works. I'm even getting cut off. Okay, Nietzsche, that's enough. Thanks. Jeez, this Nietzsche guy is like a, I don't know, Corey, what do you think about him?
He's kind of a needy dude.
I feel like he just kind of is like crashing our party, you know, like talking about Wacom tablets and our own sorrows, and then some weird existentialist just shows up out of the blue.
Oh man, I just have like heartburn all the time. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like a byproduct of all the other stuff?
I mean, you take a bunch of antibiotics, which I've had like 4 different types of intravenous antibiotics and 2 heavy antibiotics just last month.
Mm-hmm.
And it kills all bacteria including like the gut bugs that are like good for helping digestion and stuff. So yeah, it's no fun.
Yeah, that sounds. Corey, you're due a better year. Like,
I hope so.
I really hope so too, because you've really been through it, man. Like this year.
Yeah, it's been something for sure.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It's definitely been something. It's definitely not nothing. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But what's cool is like I hate to say, but you are kind of an inspiration in the way that you've kind of still put out work and managed to also put out probably the best animation I've seen you do in like the toughest of circumstances. I love that is one thing I really liked about the video. I think it's maybe the second to last video you posted on your channel.
Oh, the one where I was introducing shades and I ran through all the crap.
Yeah, when you just ran through it in like 5 minutes being like, these things happened, and then I made this awesome thing. And it's like, it is really stunning when you kind of list it all out, like the amount of resilience and stick-to-itiveness stuff?
Stick-to-itiveness, yeah.
Sticky art-tiveness. That's a shout out to our buddy who stops by here sometimes. But yeah, it's been a year, man.
Yeah, that's true. 0 stars. Do not recommend. Though there's some decent stuff that happened. So
yeah, that's the how do you kind of deal with that? There's this like sort of weird thing where it's almost strange when you are dealing with like pretty severe stuff, but there's also like joy and like good things. It's an interesting, I don't know, it's a very strange thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I made a joke with you guys that I actually think is not that big of a joke, but a lot of you guys behind the scenes became very uncomfortable joking about all the stuff I was going through. And I was like, oh no, we need to keep joking about this. Like,
yeah,
you don't get to take that away. Like, that's a thing. I don't care if you guys are uncomfortable. I'm going to continue to joke about this garbage.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think I even have mentioned that on stream too, where it's like, you'll notice that like people with the darkest sense of humor about heavy topics have usually been through the heavy topic that they have a dark sense of humor about, you know? Like humor is a gift.
Yeah.
Well,
and I like the equation, right? The equation is time plus tragedy equals humor. And I have altered that variable time to mean immediately after I realize that I'm not dead. It's funny right then. And that's because life's too short, and why, if you can laugh about it now, why not? Why wouldn't you?
I concur. I've done videos on this too. I think it's healthy to have at least been through. I mean, I don't think it's healthy to have been through the amount that you've been through this year.
Healthy, but it's something.
But I think it's healthy for people to be in a scenario where at least they're realizing there's mortality. I feel like if you're an artist out there and you're living in some fantasy where there's no mortality, you're missing out on like these core fundamentals of like storytelling. Like the whole crux of storytelling is hedged on mortality, Yeah. Not that you have to be like walking around being like obsessed with like dark things or anything, but it's like you need to be able to kind of stare into that void in order to like I think, be writing things of substance or making art, and thinking about art on terms of like art, not just, commerce.
Yeah.
I think that's now I wouldn't recommend getting in, near death experiences on a motorcycle anytime soon for anyone. I definitely wouldn't recommend that. That one's a unique to Corey one,
It's still good though.
Yeah. So I have made some progress. This has been, a pretty actually awesome stream, and I'm glad you were down to kind of hang out, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you keeping me company. And I would tell you, if I didn't have work tomorrow, this would be like our old art checks where we'd just keep going till like,
Right.
Although I kind of feel like on the art checks, I would do that even when I had work.
You were burning the candle at both ends and then in the middle, like you had like a flame in the middle of the candle.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not happy with both ends. I'm going to burn in a third spot as well.
Yeah, I think I was just taking the candle and just putting it in the fireplace. Like
Right.
the wax was meant to melt on this thing anyway. Why wait?
Right. Why wait? Yeah, just toss the candle directly in the fire. I think that's what was going on.
But I feel like I've reached a slight balance where I've only had like a few moments of burnout, which I think, considering the amount of like times you've had to escape burnout to get shades done, I feel like so far, being like working on page 32 right now and only having like one slightly close brush with burnout isn't too bad.
Yeah, you might be glorifying shades a bit. It was fine. There wasn't anything about it that was.
Oh, you didn't have like any moments of like close to burnout on it?
Oh yeah, but I do that all the time.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't think it's, there wasn't anything like, I mean, it was for the animation part of it. That's the only thing that I was doing. I was on sabbatical and that was the project that I was working on. So
yeah,
I was able to put in like, 30 to 50 hours a week on it. And it was really nice. It was pretty good. Yeah. I still had to, like remind myself to hang out with my family and eat food and socialize and things. But
yeah, and also recover from some pretty severe injuries.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
That was also a thing.
That kind of took the place of the day job for a little bit there.
It did. Yeah. I still did the day job, but my boss didn't want me to.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
So
I just figured I'm going to sit here or I could sit there. It's fine.
Yeah. So I think that all I was meaning was like, I feel like I've gotten a little better at the juggling and avoiding burnout, because on this project so far, 31 pages in, I've only had one major brush with potential burnout. And then, it took me out for like a day, and then I've been back on the horse. So I think this 2:00 thing, I don't want to stretch it too much. Because I think that's the magic bullet,
You're going over quite a bit.
Yeah. Tonight. So I think that might be kind of where I need to draw the line, is like, I think I've gone over about as much as I can get away with. And I don't want to mess up a good thing, because I feel like that little barricade, you need those little established ideas just to kind of retain your sanity when you're working on crazy projects. Pro tip for you guys out there. But I appreciate you hanging out, and I also appreciate everybody who hung out in the chats. I think that it was a fun one, and I also would highly encourage people to check out Artcasters after you've checked out Shades. And I guess that I will end this by saying that if you appreciate these live streams and you get stuff out of this or anything from my channel, good way to kind of give back is to pick up this book, Jacob's Apartment. It is a comic book that talks about, I guess, like the vibe of it is if you took Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, put in a blender with Ghost World, and that comes out with a flavor that you like. That's sort of the feel of this book. It's a book that talks about the kinds of questions that can shake even the strongest of faith, and follows two roommates that are going through identity challenging moments and find themselves drawn together through their shared losses and experiences. And as that occurs, dreams and reality start interweaving. It's really kind of profound book that I wrote, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I'd encourage you guys to pick it up. If you can't pick it up, I'd also just say, like, one of the coolest things you can do for free is go to your local library and ask them to carry this book. It's available through Diamond Distribution from Graphic Mundi. And then also, if you guys haven't picked up Two Stories yet, what are you doing? This graphic novel talks openly about my journey dealing with depression. It's very autobiographical and confessional, and done in the vein of like old, indie underground comics like Raw and Zap and American Splendor, with a no holds barred confessional autobio. And I think we need to call it quits too, because I think Corey might be dying in the background.
Just a look off. Yeah. But
So anyhow,
17 of 17. Now I just need to add the text. So
that's pretty impressive. I think I'm in pretty good shape. So on my page. So we'll get there. All right, guys. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, and I will see you guys on the next live stream. Corey, I'll see you when I see you.
See ya.
Bye.